Welcome to the Legal Journey Pathway. My name is Natasha Quiroga, and I will be your course instructor. And I just wanted to welcome you, and I'm so glad you're joining us. My background is primarily in civil rights and education law, where I've specialized and focused on English language learners, immigrant students, students with disabilities, and students of color. And I've spent a fair amount of time working with immigrant students, and especially with students and children who are in children's detention facilities. During the family separation crisis in 2018, I did some work with separated parents who were detained, as well as conducting monitoring visits at children's detention facilities. So from those experiences, I really wanted to develop a course for the adults who are really engaged and involved with our immigrant students, and that's you, the educators and school staff. And so this pathway is meant to give you a better overview of the legal system that some of your students might be facing, the different policies that impact directly your students, as well as what school policies and strategies and how you can better support your immigrant students in their legal journey. A few disclaimers: this course is not intended to provide legal advice of any kind. And if you are seeking legal advice, please consult with an attorney, and please do not use this course to provide legal advice to anyone. This is meant to be a background and an overview of the system so you can better understand what your students might be facing. And then finally, a lot of this content, it might be a little bit emotionally challenging. And a lot of the story, I'll be sharing some stories of children that I've worked with, and you may have experienced this yourself, or you may know a lot of students who have experienced this. So please take time to process and to breathe. And if you need to pause, please pause. And if there are other issues, please do contact me. So to begin, using the term, who is an immigrant student? So you might be familiar with the Title III definition of an immigrant student, and that is any child or youth who is 3 years old through 21, was not born in any state or the District of Columbia or Puerto Rico, and has not been attending one or more schools in any one or more states for more than 3 full academic years. So that's the definition that you're probably familiar with. For the purposes of this course and this pathway, I'm using it kind of as an all-encompassing term just to make it easier. And so it could include those who are recently arrived newcomer students. It could include refugees. It could include students with limited or interrupted formal education. It could include unaccompanied children, children of migrant farm workers, undocumented children, children who may have been separated from their parents, and dreamers, those who have DACA. And when I want to distinguish, we'll distinguish between some of these terms as we get into a little bit specifics, but that's who we're referring to when we talk about immigrant students. And in terms of language, we need to use humanizing language when we talk about our immigrant students. So I will be using the terms undocumented or non-citizen or non-lawful status. We do not use words like alien or illegal immigrant for a couple of reasons. One, they're dehumanizing, and two, illegal immigrant is incorrect because a human being cannot be illegal. It is the act. And so just so you're aware, in this past spring in 2021, the Biden administration actually issued guidance for U.S. immigration enforcement agencies to change how they talk about immigrants. So these terms illegal alien and assimilation, are not to be used, and they're replaced by undocumented non-citizen and integration. And this is important because even in the names of our policies, the government used to use these dehumanizing terms. And so it's important that when you're referring to your students, that we use more humanizing language as well. So in this presentation, we'll use the language of unaccompanied child or unaccompanied minors. You might see acronyms like UAC, UC, or UM. UAC is what the government has referred to as unaccompanied children, as unaccompanied alien child. Again, We're not using the term alien, so they'll be likely referred to as UC or UM. And the definition of who meets this term, unaccompanied child, it would be a child who has no lawful immigration status in the United States, has not turned 18 years old, and was apprehended by US immigration authorities without a parent or legal guardian. So just to give you a background of why it's so important looking at the population, there are about 840,000 immigrant students in the United States and more than 4.6 million English learners. And just breaking it down to see how this overlaps, there are about 1.5 million undocumented children and youth now living in the US. And about 44% of undocumented students who are over the age of 5 speak English not well or not at all. So these are students who will be coming into your classroom. Now, about 5 million students are English learners, which is about 10% of our K through 12 student population, and 18 million children are living with at least one immigrant parent. So we're going to be touching on the issues primarily targeted towards undocumented students themselves, but I'll also be sharing some important information for those children who might be US citizens, but they have an undocumented parent. And just to give you a sense of where our undocumented students are from, we automatically assume that the majority are coming from Central and South America, but there are still a large percentage from around the world. 7% are from Asia, another 7% are from Sub-Saharan Africa, and then 5% are from the Caribbean. Now, we're going to talk a lot about detention as well, but just to give you an idea of what's been happening throughout the years and the number of border apprehensions by month, you can see these lines of those who are unaccompanied, those who are traveling with family, and then those who are alone, which is a larger percentage. But you can see the unaccompanied minors, this red line at the bottom, it has remained fairly consistent up until recently in 2021, where it's hit the highest number it has, giving to a final number of 18,534. So that gives you a brief introduction, and we'll talk about the logistics of the course next.